Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1352B, and today's date is August 8th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Behind the Scenes, Plans Are Being Formulated. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, Obamacare is imploding on itself, and it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. And eventually what's going to happen is that most likely all these exchanges, they're going to be completely bankrupt. There's going to be so many people not taking the insurance that they're going to have to say, something, we need to do something different. But what's very interesting about Obamacare is that it is really destroying the retail sector. And I know the corporate media is out there and they're blaming it on Amazon. Every time you see a report about retail, brick and mortar, they say, well, it's the Amazon effect. Actually, it's the Obamacare effect. It's the economy effect. It's all of this together. Because when you really look at this, online sales represent around 8.5% to 12% of total retail sales. Amazon comes in at $80 billion in sales, but this merely amounts to just 1.5% of total U.S. retail sales. Since 2016, the total retail sales were around $5.5 trillion. So when the corporate media is out there telling you everything's going to Amazon, no, that is not true. And what we're seeing right now is that a lot of people are not spending their funds, one, because they don't have jobs. Two, they had a full-time job, and now they have a part-time job. Or maybe 2 or 3 part-time jobs, and they barely make ends meet. They're using their credit cards just to buy the food, buy what clothing they have, and survive every single day. And wages and salaries have been declining throughout this period of time. The other thing is Obamacare. The premiums, as they continually move up and up and up and up, what happens is you're losing your discretionary funds. You don't have these funds to go spend in retail. So when you put all of this together, this is a major problem. And it's going to hurt the economy. And this is exactly what we're seeing. Over time, Obamacare has chipped away at discretionary dollars. And if people are making less and wages are coming down and you're paying higher premiums and higher deductibles, well, it's going to add to this, and this is going to be a major problem. So when you start putting all this stuff together, you can see that we have this problem, and the benefit from Obamacare, well, it's really not for the people, it's for the insurance company. It's for those individuals in Congress who sold it, those individuals who are benefiting from what has been done here. Now, the American people, okay, they are not benefiting from this. Yes, those people who are in subsidies and things like that, where the government is paying pretty much all of it, yes, they benefit, but that's a small group compared to the rest of the country. And if the rest of the country, the bulk of the country, can't afford it, it's not a benefit. And even if the premiums were brought down a little bit, you have these high deductibles of $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000. And you need to meet that before the insurance companies will even chip in. So the whole thing is one complete disaster. This is why it's not doing well. This is why the government officials, those employees, decided to exempt themselves from it, because they knew they had something better, and they said to the rest of the country, here, you take this and you should be happy with this. But guess what? The people are saying, we're not happy with this. We don't want it. Now we see that Rex Tillerson, he's meeting face-to-face with Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, and they're talking with each other about what's happening in Korea, what's happening in the Philippines, and human rights groups are out there, and they have questioned the Trump administration willingness to engage with Duterte. And Tillerson is out there saying that I see no conflict at all in our helping them with that situation, and our views of the human rights concerns we have with respect to how they carry out their counter-narcotics activities. And we can see right now that in his country, there's the CIA, the intelligence operation, where they're running drugs. And Duterte came in and said he's going to stop this. And this is why the CIA is in there, because they don't like what Duterte is doing. They would like to have regime change. And whenever they want regime change, they bring in the terrorist group. They'd say, oh, look at this. He is violating human rights. He's going after these drug smugglers, and it's just not nice. And they continue on with this to try to paint a picture of any leader of being a person who's a dictator, who tortures people. And if you look at every country that we had regime change in, this is exactly what they have done. Now, we can see right now that the U.S. Department of Defense, they're weighing a new strategy of maybe authorizing military drone strikes in the Philippines. Now, once again, Duterte, as we can see how he's not very favorable of the United States being inside of his country, I don't think at this point he's going to say, yeah, come on in, bring in your drones, because he's seen what happened in other countries. He knows what's happening out in Libya. He knows what happens in Syria. He knows what happens in Iraq. He's seen all these countries and what has been happening, where the United States comes in and uses drone strikes, not on the terrorist groups, but on the infrastructure of the country. Now, the Philippines, they're denying all of this. They're saying, we have not given them permission. We do not want them in the country. And you have to remember, Duterte right now and his forces, they are being very strategic in what they are doing. They're only going after the terrorists. They're just not bombing a hospital filled with innocent people. They're only going to certain areas and hitting the terrorist groups. Plus, they're giving aid to those individuals that were just liberated from the terrorist groups, those groups that have been blocked off from supplies. And we can see at this time, it's the deep state that wants to start this up. The deep state that wants to get their fingers in the country. Because what they're really trying to do is they're trying to get to Duterte. Now, the Philippine National Democratic Front has alleged that the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency have been plotting to kill the exiled leader, Jose Maria Sison, and they want to overthrow President Duterte. Now, they're saying that this is going to be a two-stage plot. The first step, they're saying we're going to see a dispatch of a hit team to the exiled Jose Maria Sison's home in the Netherlands. And it's going to be comprised of the elite AFP forces disguised as disaffected dropouts from the New People's Army. The second would result in the overthrow of Duterte for violating human rights in his ongoing war on drugs and criminality. And this is exactly what the CIA does. Once they start losing control and they want control back, they start eliminating people, they bring terrorist groups in, and they create these plans. Now, out in North Korea, we can see already that things are getting out of hand. We see Daniel Jean, the National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister of Canada. Well, his party arrived in North Korea. They're talking about having the Korean-Canadian pastor Lim Haeon-soo released. He's being held in custody by the North since he entered the country on a humanitarian mission in January of 2015. And we believe that Danielle Jean, the National Security Advisor, is there for other reasons. We also see Rex Tillerson. Well, he seems to have dropped a condition for the direct talks between Washington and North Korea. He's saying that North Korea must halt its missile tests, but Tillerson didn't mention anything about nuclear testing, which is very interesting. Now, North Korea, on the other hand, which we discussed before, they're saying they want South Korea and the United States to stop having these live fire drills. But once Tillerson said this, South Korea, plus the United States, they held a live fire drill near the western border with North Korea. Now, the live fire drills were held by the 6th Brigade and the Northwest Islands Defense Command, tasked with defending Seoul's Yellow Sea Islands. And they were firing rockets, they were firing howitzers, they had Cobra attack helicopters, and they were doing all of this while they were telling North Korea, listen, we want you to stop your missile program. And North Korea, their demands were don't have these drills. So how does this look to North Korea? It doesn't look that great because you're not sticking by what you were supposed to do. Now, Japan is out there, and they've just released this new 500-page report in which it warns that North Korea right now, they have entered a new stage of the nuclear program. And they're saying that North Korea has the ability to miniature the nuclear warheads. Now, this report is speculating that North Korea had improved its technological expertise to the point where it could theoretically marry a nuclear warhead with a missile. Now, what's very interesting is that the Washington Post, they echoed what Japan said. Now, again, we've said this before. The deep state has control of the corporate media. They're all pretty much controlled, and the source of these stories really comes out of the same exact area. And then each news agency starts to pick it up, and they try to convince you that since 1, 2, 3, 4 news agencies have it, it must be true. Well, we need to go back in time right now and remember Colin Powell, where they said, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. He held up this little, vial of powder saying that, yes, we've confirmed it. There's weapons of mass destruction. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the same thing being played out where the deep state, they're pushing this idea. Now, Russia, on the other hand, they are saying that they are pretty much years away from doing this. And they don't have the ability. And we've been watching them fire these missiles. They aren't intercontinental ballistic missiles right now. They are medium-range missiles that most of the time they blow up before they hit the water. Now, the deep state didn't get their way in the UN. Remember Nikki Haley? She was out there and she's saying we're having no more talk. We're done with this. And basically she said there is no point in having an emergency session if it produces nothing of consequence. North Korea is already a subject to numerous Security Council resolutions that they violate with impunity and that are not complied with by all UN member states. An additional Security Council resolution that does not significantly increase the international pressure on North Korea is of no value. Guess what? She didn't get her way. Guess who got its way? China and Russia. They're the ones who decided, no, we're going to place sanctions on North Korea and we're going to have talks. So the U.S. was completely shot down. Actually, the deep state was completely shot down, and Russia and China took control of the situation. And we see right now that China is getting its way on North Korea, along with Russia, even though the deep state wants to do something very different. And I think this is why we are seeing all these stories right now about how North Korea has a miniature nuclear weapon, how they can place it on a missile. And let's say they do have this right now. Well, that says that they are a nuclear power, and regime change going into this country is going to be pretty much out of the question. And we know if they actually do have this, any type of invasion, they're going to fire it off and kill many people in South Korea, and this is going to lead to a nuclear war. So when we look at this at both sides, it's a no-win situation. And China and Russia, they're trying to take control of the situation. They just pulled this away from the deep state in the UN right now. Now, a couple reports ago, we talked about this, how when the deep state is backed against a corner and it looks like things are not going well for them, they might resort to a false flag. Now, what's very interesting about this next story is that Nikki Haley was talking about North Korea and this new report that I believe Fox News was carrying about North Korea loading up their patrol boats with 2 anti-ship cruise missiles. And they spoke to Nikki Haley about this, and she said that, this is classified information. We really can't talk about this. But Trump, he tweeted out the Fox News story that reported that U.S. spy agencies detected via satellite that North Korea regime was loading 2 anti-ship cruise missiles on a patrol boat on the country's east coast. These missiles have not been on this type of craft since 2014. Now, most likely, I think this was going to be set up for some type of false flag event, and Trump came out there and decided once again to put this out in the open. And I think that the deep state was definitely planning something. They were trying to make this look like, North Korea was about to do something. They were up to something. They were putting missiles on a patrol boat. We don't know what they were trying to do. They were setting things up. And I believe that this was, again, one of those things that we saw in Syria where they said, it looks like there's another chemical attack, and the Trump administration was just out there and they blurted something out there to stop this from happening. And I think that was a false flag event. And I think the same thing is happening once again. And I think we're going to see this happen many, many times, because the deep state, they are definitely getting ready to do something, because we can see their backs are against the wall. Because what is happening right now? Well, the Islamic State, their reign is over in central Syria. They're coming to an end right now. They are being surrounded and squeezed. And we can see this is definitely happening. We see that the U.S. presence at the Al-Taf base, well, it looks like they might be working with Russia right now to maybe hand this over to the Russian military, and they would take this over right now. There's a lot of plans going on that are behind the scenes where they're being kept from the corporate media. And one of these things is about Raqqa. Now, this is coming from individuals within Syria, where they're saying that there's a plan behind the scenes that once Raqqa is completely free of the Islamic State, the master plan here is to hand Raqqa back to Syria. Now, remember, the U.S. deep state's master plan, their master plan, is a federalized partition of Syria. But it looks like the Syrian army, Russia and the United States, they have different plans than what the deep state is planning right now. And the agreement is on Raqqa. And it looks like that they might hand this back to Syria, restore it to Syria, and if the Kurds want to have a part, if they want to separate themselves from Syria, it's going to have to be a vote by the people, not by the deep state, not by the coalition forces. And this is what Russia has been saying for quite a while. And right now, Russia and Assad, they hold all the cards in Syria. The paid mercenaries, the terrorist groups, they are being squeezed. They're pretty much almost done for. They have blocked all the borders, and the paid mercenary forces, the terrorists, they can't get any supplies in right now. And we can see as Russia and Syria move to different areas and they set it up as a safe zone, a de-escalation zone, they bring in the military police and they pretty much cut this entire area off. And right now, Russia has helped a lot. They laid the groundwork for a ceasefire. They have the most power right now. The people of Syria, they are seeing this. They're not seeing it as the United States has done this. They're seeing it as Russia has helped the country. And this is a really big deal. And again, when the people look at Assad right now, he invited Russia in there. So if there was any type of vote of who do you want to be president, if you want the Kurds to have their own land, I think this is going to be shot down. And I think Russia knows that. I think Assad knows that. And I think the deep state knows that. And this is why they don't want to have any type of vote. They don't want to have a referendum. Because if you leave it up to the people, it's not going to be what they want. So basically right now, the deep state, they are completely backed against the wall right now. And what we're looking at is what is happening out in North Korea. And I believe that they're going to try to do something in the next, actually, I think it's the next couple of weeks right now. because we see there's a plan behind the plan out in Syria, and they are done for there. North Korea, Russia, and China, they are blocking the deep state at every access point, and they are becoming very desperate. And that's why in the next couple of weeks, we need to watch the situation very, very carefully. We remember, Congress is on break until after Labor Day. The deep state likes to play in this time frame. And here we are in August, and it's the 8th of August, and we can see they have all this time, and I think they were trying to set up some type of false flag. They were trying to push their agenda, and it was completely blocked. And we're going to have to watch, because they never give up. If that plan goes down the tubes, they'll come up with another plan, because they're always goal-oriented, and that's what they're pushing for. They're pushing to get the United States, the world, into a war. And this is what we're watching. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.